In this detailed side-by-side comparison, you'll see what the Fujifilm X-T200 and X-T100 have in common and how they differ. Hey photographers, many of you asked me to compare the new Fujifilm X-T200 with the older X-T100. This is the black version of the X-T100 with the silver 15-45 kit. The camera is also available in silver. And this is the silver version of the X-T200 with the upgraded black 15-45 kit lens. It's also available in black. And both have additional color configurations. If you only want to know which is best, that's easy. It's the X-T200 you'll see. And I'm not going to demonstrate specific features. You'll find hands-on demos in my reviews of these cameras. They both have APS-C sensors with 24 megapixel resolution and Bayer filters. The X-T200 has copper wiring, the X-T100 aluminum. The dimensions are nearly identical. The X-T200 is a little deeper because of the integrated front grip. And surprisingly, the X-T200 is lighter, 370 grams with battery and SD card, compared to 450 with the X-T100. That's enough to be more than noticeable when you pick them up. The finish on the X-T200 is a little less shiny and a little more grippy, and feels a little more like leather than the X-T100. The big difference is the LCD. On the X-T200, it covers more of the back to accommodate a 16:9 aspect designed for video recording. It's a 2760 kDot resolution with a 1000 nit brightness. The X-T100 rotates up and down and swivels out to face forward, where the same rotation remains possible. The X-T200 doesn't rotate until it's swiveled out, then turns through a larger rotation and closes to the back of the camera. Identical viewfinder spec with the same diopter dial and mode key. Much of the detailing looks similar, but throughout there are small touches to favor the X-T200. There's a lot that was tweaked. The thumb rest is slightly larger. Across the top, the right side function dial and flash release are identical, although operation might be a little quieter on the X-T100. Flash specifications are the same. Both have 12 selections on the mode dial. On the X-T200, video has been added, replacing portrait mode. Both have panorama, but in different locations. On the X-T100, on-off is a switch surrounding the shutter. On the X-T200, it's a button beside, and there's a control dial around the shutter. Both have video record buttons and main command dials. There's no top panel fun button on the X-T200. Both have two keys on the left side of the back panel, play and delete, but the X-T200 doubles the delete as a drive mode key to open drive mode settings. The 100's Q key has been moved to an on-screen button. The 200 has two customizable function keys. The 100's up-facing command dial functions are moved to the dial around the shutter. And the 5-key menu navigation pad has been replaced by a joystick and the menu key. AF and white balance are on-screen keys. We've already found the drive key. Both have a display back key. On the right side, both have micro HDMI and USB C-type on the 200, which supports a headphone out. An adapter is provided. Mic port on the left side, 2.5mm on the 100 is a shared remote port, the standard 3.5mm on the 200. Tripod mount is slightly right of center, and any tripod will block the battery door. There is a change in the latch and opening direction of the battery and SD card door. Neither snaps closed. Both support UHS-1 type SD cards. The shooting screen is very similar. On the X-T100, touch the text label buttons on the right to change the touch function, the film simulation, and focus mode. For the shooting screen, the X-T200 has settings to increase the size of the on-screen indicators, from this size to this. The settings also available for the viewfinder. And the large size indicator screen can be customized. The X-T200 has one button to open the settings panel. The touch options are top left, then white balance, film simulation, and focus mode. On the right, sliders for exposure compensation, aperture, called depth control, and to change the aspect ratio. These can be customized if there are other settings you adjust more frequently. On the drive menu, the 100's burst rates are 3 and 6, the 200 ups to 4 and 8. The 100 has 4K burst and 4K multifocus, which did not make it to the X-T200, otherwise the same. Both screens are touch-enabled. On the X-T200, nearly everything works with touch. That includes the main menu navigation and selection. One exception, the X-T100 supported 4 swipe motions. The X-T200 does not. The X-T100 has a dedicated Q menu key to open the Quick Settings menu. On the X-T200, you have to navigate through the Overlay menu. Then they are the same, 4x4 layout, but on the X-T200, it's superimposed over the scene. The settings are the same. On the X-T200, use touch to open a setting and select an option. On the X-T100, use the cursor to navigate to a setting, then the up-facing dial to select the option. On the X-T200, you can see the changes you're making. And although both find focus in the center easily, a little more difficulty at the edges. These are all straight out of camera JPEGs, taken with the standard film simulation color profile. And after taking photos in multiple situations, I did not find any difference that would make me think that the image quality from one is better than the other. They're both crisp and detailed with accurate color rendition and good contrast. The copper wiring improves the readout speed of the sensor, which should reduce rolling shutter in video. This is 4K at 30 frames from the X-T200 at a data rate of 100 megabits. The X-T100 does not have a usable 4K frame rate. This is HD 1080 at 60 with a data rate of 38 megabits. And this is HD 1080 60 from the X-T200 with a slightly lower data rate, 35 megabits. At HD 60, the 100 shows a slight rolling shutter effect, somewhat less on the X-T200. At 4K, there's more, as the vertical lines are definitely leaning over. The 4K from the X-T200 is clearly superior in definition. Although many of the settings are the same, the look, feel, and organization of the main menus is quite different. And if you're comfortable and familiar with the X-T100, the X-T200 will seem like a very different camera. The X-T100 has 8 tabs on the side, each is a single screen. On the 200 there are 6, plus My Menu. Each has multiple screens. 6 lines per screen on the 100, 8 on the 200. The 200's tabs scroll to multiple screens, both skip over dimmed selections. The organizational changes make it hard to go side by side, so mostly I'm going to use the X-T100 on the left as the reference and jump around on the X-T200 on the right. If the capabilities are identical, I'll just skip over those. My Menu creates a custom selection of options that you use frequently. Settings can be added, deleted, and moved on the list. After it's configured, My Menu is the default when the menu key is pressed. The first setting on the X-T100 opens the focus settings, which encompass the Tab 2 options on the X-T200. The area selection screen shows the upgrade in focus capability from the T100 to the 200. The T100 has both phase and contrast detect points, only phase on the 200, which has more points and covers a slightly larger area. On the X-T100, the cursor control moves the spot. On the 200, use the joystick. Use the up-facing dial on the 100 to change the size. On the 200, the back dial. On the 100, 5 single-size options, 6 on the 200. Both have 3 zones and wide. On the 100, face and eye are a single selection list. On the 200, the eye options are unnecessarily nested down a level. With single point, the 200 can select either the 425 points we just saw or 117. Other features scattered around the T100's menu have been consolidated on the 200's Focus tab. MF Assist from Tab 4 with the same options on both. Focus Check from the Screen Setup, Interlock Spot from Tab 4, and Touchscreen Mode from Tab 3 with the same options. The T100's release type is a 4K burst option which isn't available on the 200. ISO appears on tab 3 on the 200, same settings, including the extended ones, and both have 3 auto settings with the same parameters. Image size appears on tab 1 on the 200 and offers both 4x3 and 3x2 aspects for all 3 sizes, which are otherwise the same. Dynamic range both require ISO 800 or above for 400%. The film simulation selection screens differ. The 200 has a slider to compare the current selection to the new one. The options are the same. On the 200, Film Sim bracket is found on tab 3, where you'll also find Self-Timer with the same face, smile, buddy, and group settings, and Interval Timer with identical settings. Time-lapse movie with the same 4K, HD 1080, and 720 settings, and the 200 adds square modes. Although the order is different, color, sharpness, highlight, and shadow tones, as well as noise reduction and long exposure noise reduction, have the same settings. From tab 4, touch zoom moved to tab 3. Shoot without lens is found on Setup button dial settings. On both, the photometry setting is not available when face detect is on. And on the 200, Flash has its own tab. The tab 5 movie setting also has its own tab on the 200. On the 100, 4K tops to 15 frames and records up to 30-minute clips. On the 200, 4K goes to 30 frames but caps at 15 minutes. 25 as well as 24 drop and non-drop are available. On the X-T200, 30-frame modes in 1080 and 720 have been added, as well as several versions of square resolutions. Both have high-speed HD recording for slow motion. The range of options on the 100 starts at 1.6 compared to 2 on the 200, which goes up to 5 times slow. The 100 tops at 4. Video ISO for both goes from 400 to 6400 with an auto setting. The 100's mic level adjustment has 4 stops, and on the 200, independent adjustment for internal and external mics calibrated in decibels, 6 dB gain, 30 dB attenuation. The limiter can be deactivated. Wind and low-cut filters are also available. The 200 has a headphone level control. On the 100, the 2.5mm mic port doubles as a remote. That's selected with this option. The 200 does not have an equivalent feature. The Stills IS mode appears on tab 3 on the 200. The Video Digital Image Stabilizer appears with the video options. It's beside the digital gimbal, which is new on the X-T200. Shutter type, also on tab 3, the same options, but a little more detail is provided on the 200 screen. I did not find the 100's electronic zoom setting, which enables the subcommand dial to zoom when the screen is facing forward, on the 200. On the 100, after navigating through the options at the end of tab 5, it skips back to tab 1. Use the tab selector to continue. The setup features, date, time, difference, language, reset, sound, and flash, are all user settings on the 200. Sound setup has its own submenu on the 200, with added controls over the focus and self-timer beeps. Screen setup options are the same but rearranged. Preview picture effect on the 100 becomes natural live view on the 200, where off shows the effect and on does not. The 200 also offers a separate control to see the effect of white balance or white balance and exposure. The 100 offers control over 25 screen display options, 26 on the 200. The function settings on the 100 have a button, a dial, and 4 swipe motions. On the 200, 2 buttons and the dial, and 2 on-screen buttons. On the 100, 31 functions can be assigned. On the 200, there are 45 selections. On the quick menu, the 100 has 28 functions, 43 on the 200. The 100 has 2 touchscreen options. The 200 adds a double tap, the ability to disable the touch menu, a selfie mode play button, and independent activation for shooting and playback. On the 200, power management includes standard and economy, as well as high performance. Sensor cleaning is with the user settings. Color space is found on tab 1 on the X-T200, same options. In connection settings, the X-T200 can pair multiple devices. And format has been moved to the first user setting. On the playback menu, items have been reordered, and for video files, the X-T200 gains the ability to trim a video. Now, I mentioned some, but there are more new items on the X-T200 menu. In SR Auto mode, a portrait enhancer adjusted with a slider, and a bright mode. On the 200, the scene mode settings include the portrait enhancer, an underwater setting, and light trails. A menu option sets the duration and shutter options. The advanced filters include rich and fine, monochrome near infrared, and clarity. A menu setting only available when this setting is active adjusts the effect. An HDR movie mode adds dynamic range. It's available in a few HD frame rates. And countdown video recording enables a preset recording length for the chronologically challenged. So based on the focus and video features, I'd take the X-T200, but you may be partial to the X-T100's 4K burst and focus features. Now, hopefully, that is the information that you need to help you make a decision, and until then, keep shooting until your memory card is full and your battery is empty. Of course, I may have missed something. So if you have questions or comments, I enjoy interacting with you, so post your relevant questions and civil comments below. I'd like to thank all of my subscribers. Your interest and support is appreciated, and if you're thinking about subscribing, I'm hoping that's an easier decision than choosing your next camera.